Hey guys, KIllerChinchilla here. Today I'm going to be sharing my biggest tips for new players for Warzone 2100. So let's go ahead and get in the game. Alright, so tip number one is the control key. Alright, so when you're building your base, you want to select your trucks, and then you want to tell them to build stuff. So you want to select your trucks, hold down your control button, don't let go of the control button, hold it down, and then lay out all these different structures. Right? Alright. Got plenty of power generators. So now I let go of my control button. So basically this gives them a build order of structures. So they'll go right in the order that you put them down, and they'll build everything for you. A lot of the time I see players, building one oil derrick at a time, or building one power generator and then having to tell the trucks, a minute later to build another. This cuts down on all that. So it really speeds up building your base. Now pay attention to the order that I'm building things here. This isn't an optimal order, but it's a pretty good one. You want to, in T1 games, so technology level 1 games, you want to start with a couple research units, because you got to get your research going early. Then you want to start with factories, so you can build more trucks. The more trucks you have, the faster the base you can build. Sometimes in higher technology games, people will start with factories first so they can get trucks early, but generally I would advise research first when you're playing Tech 1 games, which is the more popular game type these days. Alright, so these guys are going to be coming out. So we could either build another research unit, or we could have them cap some oils. So let's do that and see how I'm lining up all the oils with the control key. Makes things a lot easier. Alright, so we got some oils being made, we got some power generators, we're making trucks, we're researching stuff, we're doing pretty well here. So research is really, really important in this game. So as soon as there's a couple trucks that aren't making oils or making power gens, I'm going to have them build the rest of my research units, because you want to have all 5 research units being used pretty much all the time. So learning the tech tree is a really huge part of this game, and it's not easy, not at first. There's really no good way to do it except look at the website, check out the website, and play some games and see what other people research in those games. That'll give you a good idea of things to research, stuff perhaps to avoid, and different strategies, right? So there's a couple different research paths you can take as far as the weapons go. So one path is you research cannons, another path is that you research rockets. There's a couple different ways to play. And each of those paths has their strengths and weaknesses. So right now we can see the beginning of the 2 paths. Mini-pod rocket starts the rocket path, and the cannon starts the cannon path. We've already researched the light cannon. It looks like we have the heat cannon shells. I'm researching the repair unit, the repair turret. That gives us access to the repair station, which is a really, really important. It's a really important structure because you can set your units to retreat at different amounts of damage. These guys are going to steal my oil. And you always want to keep your trucks busy when you're building your base. So I'm not doing a very good job of that because I'm talking. These guys are like stealing my oil and stuff. Alright. Okay, so cap all your oils. You want to spend all that oil making units, making defenses, researching. There's plenty of things to be spending oil on. I need to make some tanks and kill some of these guys. Alright, so I was talking about the cannon path and the rocket path. There's also the machine gun. It's not really a path. I would say that the machine gun research is important, but it's really important. It's important in general, but it's important to the rocket path. Rockets are typically worse against cyborgs, where they're better against tanks. So rockets are good against tanks. They're not as good against cyborgs. Machine guns are good against cyborgs, but they're not as good against tanks. So if you're going to go the rocket path, you want to do some machine gun research, and that leads to the assault gun, which is really, really good against cyborgs. So let's research. One thing that I would never research is the command center, but it's vital to getting other stuff, so you have to research it. I don't use it at all besides researching it, just because it's an important piece of the tech tree. I got oil out here. Jeez. Wait, are these all my... Gray's on my team, purple's not. No, purple is. Oh, okay, so the teams are screwed up. So, this map is built for 6 people, and it doesn't really matter. This is a tournament map, so there's 2 spots for spectators. So a truck sits in here, and a truck sits in here, and the people can watch the game. So it's really a 2 versus 2 map. Anyway. Alright, so hopefully I have access to the repair unit. I don't have it yet. See, I want to get the repair. Yeah, there we go. Nobody's... Okay. So the repair is important, but the research module is extremely important, so we researched that first. Getting the Cobra body is also important. All these things are important. Some more than others, but for the purposes of this video, I researched the repair facility before the Cobra. Normally I would research the Cobra first. What's the point in having a repair facility if you don't have tanks, don't have good tanks? Okay, so talked a little bit about different paths. Talked about using your trucks to build your base. Let's see. Okay, so, sorry. So, if you go the rocket route, right, so you start with mini pods and then you get lancers and then you get the scourge rocket. If you go the machine gun route, you have single machine gun, twin machine gun, and then heavy machine gun, and then the assault gun. If you go the cannon route, you have light cannon, medium cannon, high velocity cannon, and then heavy cannon, and then it leads to the rail gun. Well, it leads to the needle gun, which is really, really good, and then it leads to the rail gun, and then the Gauss gun or cannon or something like that. But that's not till like, I don't know, 45 minutes in or something like that, so it's pretty far away. Alright, so okay, so this isn't the best setup for explaining team play because the teams are really screwed up. Normally it would be red and orange, or I'm sorry, red and gray versus purple and yellow, but I didn't host this right, so don't really get to demonstrate any of this. But generally you want to kind of play the guy across from you. So in this game, purple would be my opponent. So I would be responsible for keeping him in check and make sure that he didn't catch gray off guard or anything like that. So a lot of the games that you're going to play online, they're going to be won and lost because somebody doesn't cover their man. Okay, somebody screws up. They don't track where their opponent's tanks are, and then you know, basically a 2 versus 1 happens where one person gets ganged up on and he gets his tanks destroyed at a higher rate than they would have been destroyed in a 1 versus 1 fight. So think about it. Twice as many tanks shooting at your tanks, you know, it's not going to be good for you. Now, let's spin that around. Okay, let's think about this reversed. If we're going to attack and we can get a two player on 1 advantage, we're definitely going to want to take it, right? So when you're playing, you want to play as a team, right? You want to make sure that you always know where your opponent's tanks are, and if there's a chance for you to get a 2-on-1 attack, you definitely want to make it, because you're going to have a big advantage you know, after the attack. You're going to be up units, and then you can parlay that into you know, probably winning the game. I'm not doing it in this example, but you want to always be building the best tanks you can be. Nobody's researching anything. By this time in the game, we would have some pretty good tanks. We would have like Lancer, Cobra, half tracks, or something like that. Let's see, we're 12 minutes in. Yeah, we would probably have like Python tank by now, pretty easily. Python and Scorpion body, like Lancer. Or if we were doing the cannon, we might have high velocity cannon by now. I'm not sure what the timeline for that is. But yeah, you always want to be making the best tanks and cyborgs that you can be making. Shoot, I keep on screwing up. Okay, we don't really have any artillery yet, right? So mortars, ripple rockets, howitzers, stuff like that. So there's sensors, right? So we're going to build a sensor. We don't need that many trucks to build a sensor, but I'm just going to build a sensor. So, you know, sensors, sensor plus artillery. The artillery has a much wider range. Okay, so if we had a mortar pit without a sensor, you know, his range would be so far, and then with the sensor, it would be even further. Okay, so that's what sensors do, right? They show us the map and they extend the range of our artillery. Now, if we're building a lot of artillery and we're going to be in an artillery fight, we don't want to have sensors up because our artillery is not going to be firing at our opponent's artillery. We want to have a counter battery structure. We want to have several of them up, and we don't want to have sensors up. So I don't have a counter battery structure yet. It comes later in the tech tree. It comes before ripple rockets, which, you know, I'm not even anywhere near getting. You guys see this little mini rocket battery? If you want to get ripple rockets in the tech tree, you have to research that. It's a defense that most people never use, myself included, but if you want to get rid of this, you gotta research it. And this, oh yeah, this game isn't over because our opponents are hiding in here. Okay, cool. So, use counter battery towers, use CV towers. They pick up your enemy artillery and you shoot back at their artillery. So if you want to win an artillery battle, use CV towers. Okay, we can build some repair facilities. Normally you don't want to use this many trucks. You want to have your trucks in like 5 groups, like groups of 3, right? And you can assign them to a group by selecting them and then pressing Control 1, for example, or Control 2, Control 3. Okay, and then when you press the number 3, it selects them, and then you know, it's much easier to use your units that way. I try to do that, but I don't always. So, alright. So, that's pretty much all that I had planned for this this little skirmish game that I wanted to show you. So, before I leave, I want to show you what I want to talk about next. So this menu here, I don't really know what the right name for this menu is, okay, but there's a couple things that are really important in this menu, okay. There's this button here, it's retreat at medium damage, okay. You're going to want to be using this, okay. So what this does is when your units get damaged, they turn around and they go back to the repair facility and they get repaired, okay. So when you're attacking, right, so when you're attacking, you're going to want to have them set to you know, retreat at medium damage. So that way they attack, they get hit, and then they'll go retreat and go back to get repaired. I made a bunch of really stupid tanks. It's probably not the best for demonstration. My apologies. Okay, so see how I can toggle that without clicking on anything and right-clicking? I have it set to a key. I have it set to a hotkey, a bind, a key mapping, whatever you want to call it, okay? So, right now I'm going to show you some of the binds that I use that make controlling the game easier. So it's okay, so to get into where this is, you go to Options, and then you go to Key Mappings. Okay, now there's, what, 7 pages of this, okay? So, you know, it's pretty overwhelming, okay? Oh, I should have showed you how I toggle between factories and research facilities. Well, you'll just have to take my word on it and try it out. Okay, but let's talk about that menu, the unit menu. Not sure where. Okay, here it is. It's called Orders menu. Okay, I have it bound to my tab key. So to set this, you click on it, and then you know, you can set it to different things. Okay, I set it to tab. Okay. So Orders menu, tab, or you know, if you want to set it to, I don't know, whatever you want, you know, your delete button or your caps lock button or whatever, but not your control button. You need that bad boy for queuing up your trucks. All right, so Orders menu, we'll have that set to tab. That's how I like it. All right, now we need retreat at. Where is it? Retreat at medium damage? I guess it's in, okay. Retreat at medium damage. So I like to set this to caps lock, so then I can just hit tab, caps lock, tab, caps lock. Okay? So that's one part of controlling your tanks, or your units, I should say. The other really, really important bind or hotkey that I would strongly suggest is selecting all of your combat units, which is typically Control A. Okay. Now, I haven't set this because I just downloaded a new version of Warzone 2100. I just downloaded 3.1.3, so I haven't set this yet. Select all combat units. If you use Control A, it will select your VTOLs, your airplanes, and typically, you don't have VTOLs. Most of the games you'll play, you don't have them. Some games you do, okay? In those games, it is so hard to use Control A because your tanks will go somewhere and then your VTOLs will land on them, and then you'll be in a tank battle, and your VTOLs will be hovering over top, and they won't be shooting at stuff, and they'll be getting shot at. So you want to have separate bindings, okay? So what I would suggest is using select all land combat units. So just use Control A for that, okay? Control A. I like Control A for select all combat units. And in my head, it's just Control A is select all combat units. And then I rarely use VTOLs, but when I do, I just go bam, Control W, or I'm sorry, Control V, Control V. That's what I use for select all VTOLs. And then if for some reason I need to select all trucks, right, instead of Shift T or whatever. Most of my trucks are always wheels. I don't make any other wheeled units, so Control W is what I use for selecting all my trucks. If like there's a enemy attack coming at me and they're gonna wipe out all my trucks, I'll do Control W and then just send them to my base or something like that, just to get them out of the way. All right, so here we can see select next research facility. I have that selected, or I have that bound to Q. And then select next factory, I have that bound to E. Select next cyborg factory, I have that bound to R. Alright, so look at your keyboard. Tab is what I have that menu, the unit menu bound to. Caps lock is what I have, have all units retreat at medium damage bound to. And then I have Q bound to my research, E bound to my factories, and R bound to my cyborg factories. So, okay. Keeping your research busy is so much easier with using a bind like this because it lets you cycle through all of your research very, very quickly. All 5 of your research units very, very quickly. So try it out. The other part with using your factory and cyborg factory binds is that when you go to make units or when you go to upgrade units, so say you're making tanks, right? You're making a certain kind of tank, and then you get a better kind of tank that you can make. Maybe it's a different body, or maybe now you got half track, or now you have tracks or something like that, and you need to upgrade your tanks. This is going to allow you to have all your factories make new units a lot quicker. So you can just, right click on the old one, left click on the new one, and then hit your bind for the next factory instead of having to go down and go to the next factory and then go back up to change it, and then back down and then back up, to do all your factories. So same thing holds true with the cyborg factory. And I can, let me show you this in game, just real quick, and we can start with some advanced spaces. Let's do a 6-person. Yeah, okay. Let's set this up right. So 0, 1, one team, and then 2, 3 on the other team. And yeah, I guess that's good enough. Okay, so oh great, I didn't. I guess there is no advanced space. Alright, so don't follow this build order. I'm just doing this so you can see how to cycle through real quick. So yeah, let's just give these guys a minute to build some stuff. I guess I can try to show you now. So there's the unit menu. If I hit my research bind when I don't have any research, it says can't find required building. Bam. I just clicked on my factory bind. See how it cycles through them real quick. So let's just design. Let's use Viper just so the factory can actually make it. Alright, so let's say we're in the game and we're making tanks and we need to make a different type of tank. You can just go bam. You can just change them real quick, as opposed to that. See how much longer that takes? I can just change them all real quick. So that's the point of that. Now, you know, that 5 seconds doesn't seem like much, but when you're in the middle of having a firefight, you know, in the middle of the map or something like that, or trying to keep track of where your opponent's tanks are so your enemy your buddy doesn't get flanked or something like that, it matters, and it will make you a better player. So try that out. Now let's build some research. I'm not actually going to play this game or anything for real. I'm just trying to show you guys how this works. So yeah, we can cycle through a factory. Then we can cycle through research. You know, you can do this for power generators. I forget what mine's set to. I don't actually use that bind. There's really no need to have, you know, cycle through power generators. So I'm out of power. So I guess we'll just call it, you know, good enough for the little tutorial. But yeah, cycling through, very important. And then when you're fighting, you're going to want to use the combination of the menu and the half damage, right, or the retreat at medium damage. So what I do when I'm fighting all the time, I do Control A, and then tab, and then caps lock. And so when you're fighting, what this will do, when you're far away from your base, right, you will have tanks that are damaged. So when you go Control A, those damaged tanks, they'll get selected still. So if you go Control A and you tell them to go in the middle of the map, all those units that were retreating, that were damaged, that were retreating to go back to your repair facility, they're now going to get called back up to the front, okay? And that's delaying the time that they could be getting repaired. So what you need to do is you need to do Control A, control all land units, right? Do that, but then before clicking, in my case, orders menu, retreat at medium damage, right? So in my case, it's Control A, tab, cap lock. Okay, now all the trucks are coming in. So, let's get away from that. So, Control A, orders menu, and then your bind for retreat at medium damage. So that'll deselect. You guys stop shooting, please. How do I do that? So yeah, that'll deselect all the units that are hurt. So that way you won't call them to the front. Okay. So those are some tips. Hopefully they're helpful to you. If you guys are just getting into the game, you know, I want to hopefully have some other videos that will be helpful. So, you know, please share them with your friends. Really trying to get the community to grow, and one of the best ways to do that is by having new players join the community. So, you know, feel free. Check out the links in the description. There's a great Warzone 2100 website. There's an IRC channel where, you know, people can always give you some advice or you know, some tips. I'm in it pretty often. So thanks for watching, guys.